Now. Hey everyone, welcome. I am Raylan Sandin, and
Laura Mazzata.
yes, and you guys, we haven't done our show in such a long time. So we thought we would start the new year off, and our show is now called Returning to Clarity. So we're so excited to bring this to you. We're gonna probably bring you the show, what, a couple times a month, you think,
Yeah, that
friend?
sounds realistic. Yeah.
Okay. And you know what? If we get a wild hair up our, we might just do it every week. Who knows? We'll do it as often as we feel like it.
Yep. Yep.
That's the spirit that we're connecting in with now. So we're so excited to bring this to you today. We've got a lot to cover. We wanted to talk to you about what, self-discipline?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we had some thoughts. So I'll let you kind of take the charge on this one.
Okay. So first, let's introduce who we are.
Oh, yeah.
I am the Akashic therapist. So I have been a therapist for over 15 years and in private practice. And I got really sick a few years ago. And so I started doing a lot of healing and alternative and holistic work and have found so much power and a much greater depth through using energy and spiritual healing. So I have been transitioning my work and my practice to include a lot of these components to help people who have more chronic or cyclical issues, whether it's negativity or illness or pain or anxiety, self-doubt, to be able to identify these patterns and heal themselves through a lot of energetic and spiritual tools. Could you share what you do, please?
Yes. So again, Raylan Sandin here, and I am a mindset mentor and an empowerment coach, I guess you could say. I don't really even like the word coach, but mindset mentor for women who are really looking to get themselves beyond where they're at right now. We have I have worked a lot in the past with individuals who are healers, who are intuitives, whether they know it or not, people who are empathic and that sort of thing. But really looking to help women, empower women to gain perspective and to shed new light on where their mindset is now and how we can tweak it and increase it and get it to the next level. Do a lot of work with, I work with Reiki, with hypnosis, emotion code, quantum healing, and that sort of thing. So it's very exciting for me to watch people shift their mindset. And that's how Laura and I got started working together and really connected with each other. We met in a mindset class for spiritual entrepreneurs it wasn't last, it was the Christmas before last. Holy cow, wow. It seems like it's been a long time. It actually has. Laura and I have come to know and understand through the Akashic and life regression work that we have actually been together very often in very many lifetimes. So it's exciting to be back together again.
I know, and sharing all of this lovely energy with you guys.
Yes.
So
and I also wanted to say too, I channel the We Are We consciousness. And this is a big step for me to announce because we'll kind of maybe get into it today in our conversation, but I am going to be going forward, speaking more and channeling and sharing more of those messages from We Are We this year too. So lots of
yes, you
cool
are.
stuff.
I'm going to hold you accountable. See, self-discipline.
Yes, self-discipline and shifting our own mindset, right? Up leveling. That's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really, I don't know if you guys have seen some of the memes out there that state that self-discipline is equal to self-love. And I do believe that. I mean, I do believe that we need to make a commitment to ourselves. And that commitment does not have to be a big one. It can be 60 seconds a day. Okay. But it's the important part is your consistency and your intention behind it.
Right.
I actually just did a live on this in my group, Room for Healing. And we were talking about criticism and judgment, but this came up in terms of, you know, really being able to stay consistent with whatever shifts we make, whether it's in our mindset, like Raylin was talking about, whether it's in our actions that we take toward that future version of ourselves that we want to become, you know, but really being able to be consistent and have an intention of showing ourselves love and compassion in whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intention is everything, right?
Yeah, no, it really is. And matching the energy to which you want to ultimately embody, you know, and saying, okay, I'm going to choose to be in this vibration now that I ultimately want to become in 10 years or in a year or in 6 months. Even if I'm not fully feeling it right now, I'm going to choose to sit in the energy of that, whether it's calling in, you know, the emotion that you're looking for because you watch a happy video or you listen to a happy song and you just say, okay, I'm just going to do something that creates this vibration so that I can experience it. Because the more that we experience it and we expose ourselves to it, the more that we naturally and automatically embody things.
Yep. 100%. And, you know, this past year, and you and I, we've been on similar paths this past year of really kind of getting involved in expanding my business and you shifting to a new way of doing business, a new way of doing therapy that, you know, does not look like the traditional model. But let's face it, I think a lot of therapists are going this direction too.
They really are. Yeah.
It has been an exercise in self-discipline. It has been an exercise in consistency. And I will be the first to admit that there have been over the past year periods of time where I was extremely consistent and working at a high level with that. And then periods of time where I just went off the road and almost felt like I was off in a ditch somewhere. But we talked about that this morning too, this concept of, okay, being consistent, yet there has to be a balance of understanding when we need to take breaks, right? And pauses.
Right. It's so funny. Yeah. Cause that's exactly what I was just going to say too, is that it's important to kind of define what self-discipline is, because I think when people hear the word discipline, they think about, you know, making sure that you do things meticulously. Right. Exactly. And that you have to hold yourself accountable to make sure that you do things to be on the path that you're supposed to be on. Right. But that's a lot of shoulds. And like I say, don't should on yourself. So
I love that. Don't should on yourself.
Should on yourself. That really it's self-discipline is about, and my coach would say, it's not discipline, it's devotion, self-devotion, right?
I love that.
I know, because when I use the word self-discipline, it's really coming from okay, Laura, you kick yourself in the ass kind of perspective.
And it feels punitive, right?
Correct.
It feels like punishment.
Yeah. And so she's like, shift that to devotion. I was like, ooh,
I love that.
But it's really, that's what it's about. It's about not, I have to be disciplined to take certain actions or to recite certain things in my head to move forward to X point, right? It's not an attachment to outcome. It's being able to say, all right, self-discipline is me tuning in to what it is my values are, where it is I want to be, what vibration I want to embody, and being committed enough to myself and loving myself enough to say, I'm going to incorporate the things that help me stay in that space.
Yeah. Yes. We talked about that this morning, and we were saying that it's what are those things that give you that hell yes? You know, we have our writing coach, and she is always preaching that. What is it that gives you the hell yes? And that energy. And it's like you just said, staying in alignment with that energy. And, you know, so last November, I did the very first retreat that I've ever done. I was, you know, leading a workshop on inner child work and all of that. And for the better part of last year, you were with me on that journey and walked it with me and helped me through a lot of that too, with, you know, preparing for all of that and using my voice and really speaking to some traumas, very real traumas that I've been through and all that. And then after coming home less than a week later, I got hit with like mono, serious bout, and then several other little, you know, kind of nasty viruses all bang, bang, bang in a row. And you can tell it's still in my voice. And there's no mistaking the energy of that. Right? And so this is a big topic that is very needed, because we have to recognize that we can be very focused on goal-driven, action-oriented, and, you know, do, but we're called human beings for a reason.
Right. And that's how this topic even came up in the first place.
Yeah.
And you guys, it's important for you to know too, that the topics that we bring to you are all parts of our own healing as well. You know, it's not like, oh, we're the experts on this. I mean, I believe we are experts, but it's because we have been through it. We're experts at this point in time, right? Based on what we have experienced. And this came up because I watched a video that Marissa Peer had posted on Instagram about self-discipline. Yeah. And I like Marissa Peer. I do. Yeah. I appreciate her messages.
I do
but
too.
The video, I'm thankful for the video, because what it did was it offered me an opportunity to really explore this concept of self-discipline and realize that I do feel she comes more from that perspective of, you know, success, like society, I guess you could say American society's perspective of success or definition of success, of being able to move forward and be accomplished in tasks or your career or what have you, right?
Achievements.
Yeah, very outcome oriented. And I thought it was a very helpful tool for us to discuss this concept, because there were areas that I really don't agree with her. And so she shares 4 things. I'm going to share what they are, and then we're going to discuss them. So she says that there's 4 things that we need to do to improve our self-discipline. Number 1, do what you don't want to do first. Yeah. Okay. So do what you don't want to do, that thing you're dreading, because once you do that, you're going to feel so amazing and accomplished that you're going to free up all of the space to be able to do everything else. Okay. Number 2, she says, take action every single day on your way to success in direction of your goals. Number 3, delay gratification. Do not reward yourself until after the task is completed. And number 4, praise yourself the way you want someone else to praise you. So I have so many thoughts on this. And number 1, we'll start with point 1, which is do what you don't want to do first. So I like that, right? And for me at this point in my life, I'm like, yeah, she's probably right. And I need to start with those things because I avoid them. I procrastinate, right? But this does not apply across the board. It does not apply when somebody's depressed. It doesn't apply when somebody is having trouble with motivation, when somebody's paralyzed with anxiety and fear. And in those situations, what my experience has been with my clients is that if I tell them, you know, leap, and then that will appear, right? If I tell them to leap and just do it, they're going to be like in a fetal position, drooling in the corner. You know, it's not going to work. It's going to destabilize them. So I think that this is very productive advice for somebody who's very stable mental health wise, who is feeling really driven and motivated. Then yes, absolutely. If the only thing you're looking at is like these concrete tasks that you're having trouble completing.
I agree with you. I feel as though, for me, knowing from my experience and having lived through the depression or the feeling of paralysis, you know, having to take action steps to head a certain direction. When I was going through my undergrad studies, I struggled a lot with performance anxiety, not because I didn't believe or know that I could do or accomplish something or do well, you know, particularly with papers and that sort of thing. It was the exact opposite. I had the fear of, holy crap, what if I don't live up to my last really good paper, or this paper has to be even better, and just heaps and heaps and heaps of expectation that I put on myself for that performance. So what I found was the opposite that worked for me, was taking the steps that breaking it down into small action steps and taking those steps that I knew would light me on fire, would excite me, would bring me that, kind of that motivation, right? And then it would lift me higher with my energy. And then I could tackle the things that I didn't want to do. Nobody enjoys sitting for 4 hours writing a huge paper, right? But I knew if I took the early steps, I love research, I love all of that, plotting it out. If I did all of that first, then I could get into that stream of consciousness, that zen, that flow.
Right.
Right? By taking those steps first instead of what I dreaded.
Yeah. And I think that, it's about tuning in again. It's about tuning into what your style is, because I do see how people who dive in and say, all right, I'm just going to do this hard thing, they're going to feel amazing.
Right.
But I also know that with most of my clients, they have to take baby steps first. Now, there's a difference between, okay, I'm going to take baby steps, and it's really a motivational strategy, as you said, because, okay, that lights me up. That makes me feel better. Okay, now I can go on to step 2. So there's that. But then there's also the people who take that step and then they delay taking the next step, and then they delay taking the next step. And so those are the people that I really say, yes, do the big thing, but do it with someone else. Because what happens is then they're in a place where they do need to take that bigger leap to see those kinds of gains, but they can't do it alone because they don't feel stabilized enough, or they don't feel supported enough. So then that's, all right, grab that partner or that person who is going to help either kick you in the butt or go with you and do it, just so that you start it or you get involved or whatever. And that's the area where it's helpful to ask for help.
Right. Well, you and I, again, we, through our businesses, the two of us setting up our websites, taking that huge leap of actually doing a website. We did that process together. And I won't lie, it is a behemoth. It's a big deal. But doing it together really helped us. So I think we've exhibited a lot of and different tacks of and different perspectives of these steps ourselves together,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so next step is take action every single day on your way to success in direction of your goals. Okay. So this one actually irritates me a bit. And I think the reason it does, there's a couple things here. So one is, again, she's very outcome oriented. Like it's talking about like success as, first of all, she's defining success. She doesn't say how she's defining success, but I'm interpreting that she's defining success as like, achievement, some level of achievement.
Yes.
Okay.
And she has a lot of masculine energy herself anyway.
Yeah, she does.
With that. Yes.
Yeah, which is, that's great. But I feel like when we're talking about intuitive work, when we're talking about getting to know ourselves, when we're talking about healing, I personally think that, and have found in my work, that it's much more productive to, you're going to be sick of hearing this phrase, tune in to yourself and say, like, there's going to be days when I feel like shit.
Yes.
And if I push myself to do that thing in direction of my goals, then my success is more important than my health. Right. And that is not at all the vibration that I want to embody. That's not.
I find that energy snaps back at me, and I don't do as good a job as I would have if I was in the flow of it. So it feels like I'm swimming upstream, and and then I have to actually go back and redo everything that I tried to do in that energy of force.
Right. It's exactly what you and I were talking about this morning, which is embodying the vibration of those people that we want to work with us, of those, of our businesses, of whatever we want to attract in our lives, is that we want to embody that vibration. And so in order to do that, sometimes I am not going to take action every day towards my goals. Okay. But I do think it's productive to take action every single day toward nourishing and nurturing myself, taking care of myself. And that is where I agree with her in this step, because taking action every single day, even again, if it's 60 seconds, to tune into yourself, make yourself a priority and say, you know what, I am committing to the goal of who I want to become, of that vibration I want to embody. So I'm going to take steps every day to honor myself in that journey, and acceptance too of like where I am on that path.
Yep. Well, they've done a lot of research studies even on productivity, and what they have found is that people tend to work more effectively and more efficiently in smaller bursts of time, of intentional effort.
Yeah.
So if you give yourself that opportunity to work in a small burst of energy, and then you take a break or attend to yourself. Like me, I'm huge on naps. So there's some days where I'm just like, and I remember being in the energy of being in my business last year, really being driven with it. I would have to set stuff aside and say, okay, time out. I'm exhausted. Yeah. So I like that too. I think that it needs to, well, for me personally, and I know you agree, I work better if I'm in the energy and the spirit of whatever that action is. And, I know, because you have lived experience with chronic illness, and then me too, with being out, and down for the count the last 3 months now. And I'm just kind of getting back into it. When we don't pay attention to what our body needs, things will come to a screeching halt.
Yeah, and our bodies are tools. They give us cues, whether it's through physical discomfort, pain, illness, or emotions.
Right.
We are getting messages that way. And that's why I think it's important to highlight that we allow that to be our guide, rather than, we don't sacrifice that in pursuit of our goals.
Right.
We fold it into it so that,
and
as a therapist, we're always taught, like from grad school forward, make sure that when you make goals with your patients, that they're achievable, they're measurable, they're, and you pick those little small objectives along the way, because you don't want people to get defeated. You don't want yourself to get defeated. So you also want to pick a goal that's realistic, not based on, oh, okay, can I realistically achieve this by then based on how much time I have and what's going on in my life, but also based on where my energy is, how much reserves I have tucked away in little pockets. And do I want to access those right now? Because like you said earlier, coming from that space of force, or that energy of I gotta, I should, is not going to align you with what you want, no matter how hard you push. It's not.
Right, because we know that, we have to, like you said earlier, embody the energy of what it is that we are heading toward. Or wanting to be surrounded with. When you were just talking, those memes of the trajectory of healing, and our myth, our belief in the illusion is that it follows like a straight line trajectory up. But what it really does is it's a squiggle all over the page. And I think our life is that way too. And I think you and I, in a different conversation, we were laughing about how I get to where I want to head, but I take so many stops and interludes all along the way. But that's what life is. That's what our experiences dictate what they are.
Sorry. Yes, you're right. It's also creative energy. It's feminine energy. you
Yeah,
know? And
I
so,
have a lot of that.
yeah, I got a lot of that lately. The more feminine and intuitive I become, I
Mhm.
think the flakier I get. But I prefer it because I'm in a different energy and I'm in this creative. I mean, and when I say creative energy, I don't mean that I'm painting anything, right?
Right.
It means that I'm creating my reality. I'm creating my moment to moment based on energetically how I'm feeling or what I want to put out there into the world. It means that I think one of the biggest benefits of creative energy is being open to alternatives. You know,
Yes.
being open to like thinking about things differently, thinking outside of the box and really being like, oh wow, I can flow with that, because feminine energy is about flow and ease, and there's a lot of chaos with it too, so it can be confusing and it can be a struggle.
Right.
So yes, we need the masculine feminine
Mhm.
balance,
Mhm.
definitely.
And so we need the balance of that flow energy, that creative force, right, with taking action steps.
Yes.
But it's so much easier. And we energetically get on board with it when that creative energy is aligned with aligned action steps, right? Because we could take any action, and this past year I've taken a lot of action, but I've found out a lot of actions didn't work so well. And now I sit here and I go, gosh, I shouldn't have done that. But then I have to remind myself that's information, that's feedback for me of what didn't work. So now I know that I can tune in and take even more aligned action. And it's getting really crystal clear on what does aligned action look like. So for me, and I want to hear from you too what your process is, but for me, I know it's aligned action when what I receive intuitively through source, spirit, whatever you want to call that, my own soul, um, vibrates in that space of I have I have peace. I feel settled. I don't feel chaotic or you know distracted all over the place. I feel deeply energized and lit on fire and excited. In that realm where I just go, okay, totally know what I need to do to, take this next step. And then I line that up with that action to take that makes sense in that moment.
Yeah, so I really like that, and it's very similar to what I just read in Ask and It Is Given by Abraham
Mm.
Hicks, because she was talking about, or I should say they were talking about, but um, when you take that step and you feel free and you feel like emancipated and like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's your answer as to yes, you're going in the right direction. And the only area that I would question that or hesitate is impulsivity. People who are really impulsive and don't necessarily think
Right.
before they act, just in the moment, like recklessly. But again, we're talking about aligned action. Like
Yeah.
this is already a process that has been really dictated to you by your soul, by your intuition, not your emotions. And that's the clear difference between the two. It's not just, oh, I feel like doing this and it feels really exciting, so I'm just going to do it.
Right.
And not think about the consequences or whatever, but knowing that, like, yes, I'm feeling it, but it's also because I have been divinely guided. So how are you divinely guided? Well, we get those intuitive nudges where reminders come into our lives over and over again, the same message, the same sign, the same kind of person or something like that keeps appearing in our lives, that we're able to say, okay, this is like too much for a coincidence. And I feel there are no coincidences. And all of these actions that you've taken, that you say, oh, well, I shouldn't have done that. Well, you just should on yourself, right?
Yes.
Is that, there are no mistakes. We take all these steps. Like you said, there's lessons in all of that, that help us move forward. And, go ahead. Oh, the other thing I was going to say that I was talking to my coach about the other day is the other area that I want to point out. I think it's possible. I know it's possible to bring actions that you don't feel are aligned into alignment. So for instance, I absolutely despise submitting insurance claims.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
And I put it off and I put it off, and like I'm excellent clinically and I suck administratively when it comes to that shit. Okay.
Yeah.
So I hate it, but it's being able to say, how do I bring that task, which in this 3D human world, I need to complete to maintain my private practice.
Right.
How do I bring it into alignment? And so she gave me these beautiful suggestions of like creating a ritual around it, right? Or like getting myself that cup of tea and lighting a candle, lighting my Palo Santo, going into the Akashic records before I do it if I want, or but creating a ritual around it so that I'm bringing it into alignment with my energy and honoring that it serves the foundation of my business.
Yeah.
And it serves me as well. And so that then feels like an aligned action. So those things that you feel like, well, this sounds great and everything, but I still have to pay my bills and I still have to do this and I still have to do that. Right. You can find creative, there's creativity again.
Yeah.
You bring it into alignment so that that task serves you.
I love that. I love that it's from the standpoint of the task serving you rather than you serving it.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Wow. I also really enjoy and have found a great deal of success with tuning into my own physicality, and especially when I feel my energy, I can feel my energy sometimes start to rise and get a little frenetic. I get a little agitated or nervous or worried or, irritated about something. And so then when I tune into my body, and what really helps me in tuning into my body is literally putting my hands on my body. Just put your hands on yourself wherever, and that draws your mental focus, your mind's awareness to your physical frame, and then you can determine and you'll understand, oh, something's hitting me in my shoulder, or something's hitting me in my hips, or whatever. And if you're an individual that, and for a lot of individuals who have gone through trauma, this tends to be an area that takes a lot of practice.
Yes. Yes. And I really love that you said that, because it's so funny, right? We talk about like nudges from spirit, is that I have been receiving that same kind of feedback lately, that, I used to think it was so cheesy when people would say, now put your hands on your heart space.
Right.
All right, I'll do it.
Like,
right. It's exactly. And like Manuela Rohr, who I love so much, and her group Possible, she's doing a live every January with her Tiny Islands for showing us presence and how to be present. I love it so much. Anyway, so she tells you to put your hand on your heart and then your hand on your belly. And so I've been doing those practices, and it literally feels like I'm hugging myself. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but I promise you, try it. Because it feels like I'm giving myself a hug, like I'm being held and nurtured and comforted. So I really love that you brought that up.
Well, because what it literally, when we apply touch, whether it's someone else applies touch, think about it. Our earliest memories for most of us are our caregivers, whether that's our mom, whatever shape that was in, but our primary caregiver applying, and I have chills right now talking about it, applying touch to our bodies. Soothing us through the power of touch. What do they say when babies are born? Chest, skin to skin. That's it. That's the thing. So when we do that for ourselves, it literally shifts our mind. Our mind goes into, oh, okay, we're paying attention to here. What's going on in my body right now? Yeah. So even like if it's putting your hand on your throat or on your chest, on your belly, for most of us, we're always getting hits in our belly, in our sacral and our solar plexus.
Oh yeah. Right? It's also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so it's just so powerful that it just brings our focus. You talked earlier about intention, and intention, energy follows our intention. So when we are physically putting our hands on ourselves, that's an intention to calm, to soothe. Our mind understands that because it's been conditioned to understand. When somebody's upset, you have a friend in front of you upset, what do? Automatically you reach for their hand. You reach for their back and you start rubbing their back. It is an automatic response, a conditioned response that we can use on ourselves to bring us into that present moment, and then to tap in with what are we feeling in our body first, because our body is always the first communicator, right?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I feel like now, yes, my body is the first communicator, but I think that if we look at it from an energetic perspective, energy is the first communicator, then emotion, then emotions.
Yes.
But, I mean,
but how does the emotion interact? Through our body.
Right. No, exactly.
Yeah.
But I feel like you have to get to a very like specific level of, I would say, intuitive connection or spiritual knowing to be able to literally sense the energy shift before it turns into emotion. I've gotten to that point where I'm starting to do that, and I'm loving it so much because it's so preventive.
Yes.
You know? But yeah, being able to tune in. And the other thing I was going to say was, you know, if you put your hands particularly like on your legs, or you put the bottoms of your feet together and you put it on your knees or hold your feet, it's also very grounding. So it's like reminding, it's grounding and centering, like reminding you you're safe, you're here, you know, and allowing you, you're really relying on yourself at that time, and turning back to yourself. Okay, so let's look at number 3.
Okay.
Number 3 is delay gratification. Give yourself the reward for the task after you have completed it. So I would love to know what Sam Nelson and her unconditional parenting group thinks about this one, because this is so like standard traditional behavioral training that we've learned in this world, right? Which is like, you know, if you're a good girl, you'll get a candy, or if you're a good girl, you'll get something else or whatever.
Wasn't that Skinner who talked about and studied the reward?
He did, yeah, and the conditioned and the unconditioned stimulus and all of that. And, you know, I believe in that stuff. I really do. But I also think, once again, it's based on the individual, and it's based on how, like, what they're presenting. Because, you know, for me, case in point, I was just talking about bringing an action that's not in alignment into alignment. So for me, you could say I'm rewarding myself in advance by giving myself the peppermint tea, the candle, the Palo Santo, the chocolate, whatever it is I need to accompany that task that I'm doing, and that I'm rewarding myself first before it's completed. But for me, I feel more motivated to do that task if I couple it with the so-called reward.
Right.
And I don't see it as a reward thing. I see it as a, how do I bring this into alignment?
Yeah, I like that. I really like that a lot. And, you know, that whole point that she's talking about seems very transactional to me.
Yes, I agree.
It's very punitive. Like, if you don't do this, then I'm going to not, you know, I'm going to withhold. So why withhold that energy from yourself if it's going to help you?
Right.
So, I mean,
it doesn't serve somebody who, like,
no.
I don't know. I shouldn't even say that. I think it does serve us to do it this way. I really do, because we talk about, like, the holistic psychologist on Instagram is always talking.
Love her. Yes.
Love her, talking about reparenting.
Yeah. Yes.
And so that would be something similar that Marissa Peer is stating here, like, reparent yourself, but reparenting yourself in like a punitive, like, reward punishment kind of way, which is not my idea. And what I have not seen that as successful in myself or my clients. And you think about it, just like on the live from the Love Yourself, Heal Your Life workbook that I did this morning by Louise Hay in my group, I totally lost what I was saying. See how that happens?
Well, authoritative parenting never works.
Oh, right.
Just scares the shit out of you.
Well, basically what do we offer infants when they come into this world? Love, comfort, nurturing, right? And that we all have that inner child all the way through our lives. And how do we know that? Because when we are passing from this world, that part of us comes back. As we get much older, or we're really ill later in life, or things like that, that childlike part of us comes to the surface, and we see that in people. So we know that that's carried through our entire lifetime. And anytime that you basically have this emotional reactive response that's like that, and you want a tantrum internally or outwardly,
Yes.
that's your inner child.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, it might have a cheesy term and maybe we should change it. But at the end of the day, it's about showing ourselves, how do I make this the most loving and compassionate space so that it's inviting?
Yes. I love that. Yes. And the energy surrounding that is more welcoming and all of that. If you wanted to, I mean, you know, obviously there could be steps of that, certain things that, if your business gets to a certain point, or if you save up enough money, then you get to take that amazing trip with your family or something. Yes, of course. But, little steps along the way, certainly there's I agree with you. I don't believe in completely withholding from yourself. And if it helps you, like you said, to create that space of openness and compassion and a more serene environment, then by all means, absolutely do it.
Right. And like I said, I don't like the term reward, but if, for the purposes of discussion, like if I give myself a reward, I choose to do something. I look at it more as like taking an action of love towards myself. So
Yeah.
if I'm like in a crappy mood or something, I'm like, I'm going to drive to Starbucks and get myself a caramel macchiato.
Yes, I do that too.
Makes me really happy. And I'm not rewarding myself for like doing something. I'm just like, I'm just lifting my vibe, or I'm nurturing myself.
Yes.
And so being able to, again, tune in to like what it is that you need.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. But you have to know yourself enough. You have to know yourself enough to be able to know, like, if I do it this way, I'm going to continue delaying X, Y, or Z or whatever,
Yes.
Okay. So the last piece is praise yourself the way you want someone else to praise you.
Yeah.
That one I pretty much like.
What are you thinking about that? I like it too.
Except the word praise. I mean, not my favorite, but because I feel like that goes with like the punishment reward system, and then we praise or whatever.
Yeah.
But I like, instead of using the word praise, I like celebrating myself.
Right. Or just speaking kindly to yourself, however you want to say it. Yeah, right. I agree. And we don't do enough of that. Our minds are hardwired to look for and assess for threats, warnings, stuff to avoid. Let's label it negative or whatever, right? So it's always on the lookout for that. So at any given point in time, and a lot for me, for the performance anxiety was, oh shoot, I should have included that thought, or I could have said it better this way, or always second guessing myself, always coming down hard on myself. I would years ago, I still do, I like making my home beautiful spaces and all of that. And so I remember when my kids were little and I had newly wallpapered my kitchen, and it was when the country look was in style, like the geese.
Oh yeah.
The geese and the bows and all of that flowery stuff.
Yep.
Ugly now, but I was really proud of it. I had never done anything like that before in my life, and just did it. So family, friends, whatever would come over and they were like, wow, this looks really great. You did great. And then I would proceed to say, oh, but come over here. Do you see how like these don't line up together? And I would point out all of these mistakes, or I had trouble with this or whatever. And pretty soon they're looking at me going, what? You just killed the mood. Why can't you just accept the fact that you did a fantastic job? Shut up, step back, look at what you did, and give yourself those attaboys. But for a long time, which obviously showed me area that I needed to heal, could not and would not give myself those attaboys because of a lot of things, a lot of reasons.
I still get stuck in that at times. I really do. I still get stuck in that, where I go through those phases and it's like, it's truly a phase, and they're getting shorter and shorter and shorter, which is great. Yes. But it's like that moment where it's like, okay, I achieved this goal. What next?
Right.
mean? And so it's like, okay, like
Enjoy what you have.
celebrate and enjoy and sit in. And that is part of, I don't know, I guess it could be masculine and feminine energy, because I think it's part of my creative process, because like once I complete one thing, I just get excited. I'm like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do that, you know? And I get excited about it and I come up with new ideas and then I go on to the next thing, you know? But it's important because okay, Steve, this is answering a huge question for me.
Okay, what?
Because if I continue doing that, that is when I wear myself out and can't sustain it.
Yeah.
And I sustain that level of creativity and excitement because I'm like, oh, I'm excited about this thing. If I pause, yeah. So if I pause and I say, all right, let me allow this to integrate, sit and marinate in this celebration of what I have just created and experienced that has served me and others. Then I give, because what I've always said from the time I got sick is that my body needs time to integrate, not just my mind. I feel like my whole system, energetically included, needs to integrate, but I can feel it through my body.
Yes.
You know, like you said earlier, but I need time to integrate. And so it's almost like this, there's my divine feminine and divine masculine balance, which is like, okay, go creative, go nuts, be chaotic, create, present, and then sit and like, you know, create that structure of, all right, now I'm going to sit and marinate and integrate. And then I can move on and do that again.
And I completely resonate with that, especially right now. And, you know, we talked about that, you and I, this morning, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again. It's, you know, after doing something so big, like you just said, for me, looking to, okay, what can I do now? I think for me has been a way of not avoiding taking that time to really relish it and embrace it and enjoy it and really look over what it is that I've done to this point and go, damn, there's a lot of growth here. There's a lot of amazing opportunities that I've encountered, that I've been a part of, experiences that I never thought would have been possible. And, you know, being pulled into those present, mindful now moments, really, and physically, you know, that's what happens when you get knocked down. If you don't, like you said, if you don't take those pauses and you don't take those times, you get knocked into a position where you're forced to.
Correct. Yes. And that's the thing. It's like, it will integrate, right? Because it's coming to your energy field and you've done the work. So it will integrate. But what will happen is if there's a backlog, then it'll integrate in a condensed form and then you're knocked on your ass.
Yeah. And I know you know, was telling you that it's been kind of scary for me because it's felt like, okay, well, is this ruining my momentum? Has it put the brakes on everything and stopped my momentum from moving forward?
And that's the problem with the success principle, right? The success idea is that you think that moving forward means a certain level of productivity in, you know, your tasks and your activities and things like that, where yes, you're moving forward enormously because you're learning things about yourself. You're creating at such a deep level that is probably at a greater depth than before you entered this phase.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what? I know for some viewers out there, even the thought of that scares the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Because what happens when we get quiet? Then we have time to really address this, right? And really consider what's going on between here and here in this space. And sometimes, and I know that's why a lot of our viewers are going to resonate with that. That's why and it's great that we're talking about this, because the energy of do, go, be, you know, achieve, and that rat wheel can spark people because they don't want to stop. Because when you stop, then what are you left with? All this.
I think that's one of the main issues in society.
And everything in here. Yes. Yes.
Sitting with ourselves. It's not easy to do. It's a practice and it's a training. That's what meditation is for.
Amen.
You
But
know,
if we can do that, if we give ourselves that time and we afford ourselves that time, we become masters. Like you said, you know, now we're at this stage where we begin to and can feel and notice the subtle shift in our energy.
yeah, exactly.
Whereas years ago,
yeah, and that's why I want everybody watching to have that confidence that that's doable. So doable. I mean, there's areas of rigidity in myself that I am shocked have shifted.
Right.
You know, I was like, I am such a rigid, like agenda-driven person, and so type A, and the fact that I'm over here all loosey-goosey, you know, you really can shift it. It takes intention, like I was saying earlier.
Yes.
And if you want a place to start, just write an automatic write, you know, get yourself a journal and just write whatever's coming to your mind. For me, when I started it, it was just like a string of curse words that didn't connect, you know, and they didn't have like any kind of shape or grammatical, you know, prowess or anything like that. And they just flowed, and just do that consistently.
And go back and read it, and you'll hear wonderful messages.
Yeah, you can or you can. It doesn't matter, because I think the main point too is to start to get it out and realize that there's a theme, or that it starts to take shape. And if there is a theme, you're going to know, you know?
Yep.
You're gonna know. So we have to wrap up, but do you want to share anything that you want about working with you, if people need to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I was just going to do that. So for me, and Laura and I work very similarly, but I have session work that I call insight sessions. I bring all of my modalities to the table. I work with Reiki, quantum healing. I have hypnosis sessions. I do past life regression work, which is very powerful at helping people get to the root of what's showing up in their life currently. Insight sessions, we really tap into your energy. Sometimes channeled spirit messages come forward for you. We really talk a lot about mindset, getting to turnarounds, which are really exciting for me. We both really love that. So I have coaching sessions available too. If it's something that you really want to dig in deeper with, it's, you know, something that we can address with my coaching. It's usually about a 4-month minimum period, but we really dig into everything. We just kind of unpack it all. So I love working with people that way.
They can join your free Facebook group, Connected Empowerment, because they can get access to, you know, more tools and how to work with you and things like that through that community as well.
Yep, Connected Empowerment. And when we end the video, we'll leave both of our links to our groups and that sort of thing too, so you can get a hold of us.
So for me, you are welcome to also join my Facebook group called Room for Healing. And we share a lot of tools in that group. And we're doing a 21-day meditation challenge starting on February 3rd. And what else do we have going on? We're doing the Love Yourself, Heal Your Life workbook by Louise Hay. We're doing that together collectively. And I also have individual sessions. You can book an Akashic Record session, or I have a private program that you can access as well. Right now, I think the most effective and affordable way to work with me is to join my course, Devise Your Own Wellness Plan, which starts on January 30th. And this is a beta version of the course, so it's an insanely cheap price that I'm offering on purpose at this level, because it's the exact package that I was looking for when I started my healing journey. It's all of the most effective tools that I've put into one 5-week course to help you have access to the things that you need, developing your own personalized roadmap for how to get yourself out of these patterns and cycles that continue to repeat in your life, so that as they come up, you can stay ahead of them and prevent having them come up as frequently or with as much intensity. So I will put that link in the comments as well. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. We so appreciate you being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And we'll let you know when we go live again. And we're really excited to bring back Returning to Clarity to each one of you. And thank you guys for joining us. Thank you.